Here we are in New York City again, where we started. New York, center of popular culture. We've been building a bridge to engage the culture for Christ. Christians and culture, not always a good mix, at least not for a lot of people. It's nothing new because many people in the church have had a hard time figuring out how to interact with the culture outside its walls. They can't seem to build that bridge. Look at this huge expanse. Bridges are difficult to build. How did they get across the water? How did they get it up so high? It's complicated. But as complicated as this is, it's nowhere near close to the complexity of bridging the gap between Christians and culture. Historically, Christians have considered themselves to be citizens of two worlds: the Christian world under the lordship of Jesus Christ and the cultural world in which we live. How we as Christians manage this dual citizenship has been a real problem. By culture, of course, I'm referring to the social environment in which we live. Our language, ideas, customs, institutions, art, ceremonies, symbols, those aspects of society that get passed on from generation to generation and give a culture its identity. Now, various parts of culture affect us in different ways. Just think of how our lives are impacted by politics and education, business, medicine, religion, sports, and entertainment. All of these aspects of culture communicate a worldview and influence how we think and how we live together. Now, we've been focusing on popular culture. It's that aspect of culture that is, well, popular. It's the major influence in shaping values and behavior in our society, particularly among young people. Pop culture is known not only for what it says, but how it communicates. Television, movies, music, and the internet are the most obvious forms. Pop culture tells us who is popular and who is not, what's acceptable and what's rejected, how to dress and how not to dress, in order to show that we are a certain kind of person with certain kinds of ideas. Movies and television are the parables of our day. Music is the poetry of our day. And don't forget, every song, every movie, every television program has at its foundation a worldview. It seems that Christians have always had a love-hate relationship with culture. At the practical level, Christians have taken one of three approaches to interacting with the culture around them. The first is to be offended by what we see in culture around us so that we withdraw from it. By its very nature, this excludes any meaningful interaction with the world around us. Basically, this approach says that culture is ungodly, and to have anything to do with it is bad. The dirt and grime can rub off on us if we get too close. From this approach, many Christians would say, stay away from movies unless they have Christian themes or they honor God. Exclude any popular music from our listening except that which is performed by Christians and has Christian themes. Most broadcast television would be off limits, with the exception of a few family-friendly programs. Oh, sports programs are always okay. Now, I'm probably getting different responses from many of you. Almost all of the teenagers are saying, that's right, nobody should tell me what to listen to and what to watch. On the other hand, many adults are saying, whoa, wait just a minute. There's got to be some standard we use to discern what our kids watch and listen to. These two responses are the result of more than just a generation gap. They represent a conflict over how we should confront the powerful entertainment culture. But first, take a step back and realize that entertainment is not a right. It's something extra added to our life. Discernment is not an option. It's crucial. Instead of seeing culture as something that defines us, maybe it's time we define it. The problem is, a withdrawal approach to culture short-circuits what should be a thoughtful and active response to our world. There's much in the world that's offensive, and there is a lot to avoid. In fact, Jesus said it would be this way. But what usually happens is so many people feel that there's this wall between what they are struggling with and the Christian environment that they are driven to a second approach. The second approach is to be delighted by what we see in the world around us so that we assimilate and we become part of the culture. We do this in two ways. First, we can become part of the prevailing culture. It's our world, let's enjoy it. Whatever's popular, whatever is exciting, whatever is enjoyable, it must be okay. The musical taste of most Christian teenagers, for example, is basically the same as that of non-Christian teenagers. And many become fans of a group, an actor, or a movement without even considering the worldview basis they're presenting. Even more confusing is the fact that many artists and actors today thank God for their success, yet glorify an immoral lifestyle in their music, their movies, and their videos. And adults don't get off so easy either. Unfortunately, many Christians adopt secular means to judge success in the Christian realm. We adopt the values of the prevailing culture. We measure success by numbers, hardly the value system taught to us by the Lord. As someone once said, I looked for the world and I found it in the church. I looked for the church and I found it in the world. If Christians are no different from anyone else, then what is compelling about our faith to those outside Christianity? How does this allow us to be salt and light? Well, this leads us to our third approach. This challenges Christians to be distressed by what they see in the world around them so that they engage it with the heart and the mind of Christ. Instead of being offended and withdrawing, we engage. Instead of being delighted so that we become just like it, we have our hearts broken by a world that is without Christ. Our hearts are so broken that we engage them with the truth of God by our service, our love, our sacrifice, our integrity, our understanding, and our explanations. Let's look at a biblical example of this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, the Apostle Paul talks about the freedom that he has in Christ. Then in verse 19, he makes an unusual statement. Though I am free, he says, and belong to no man, I make myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. Paul says that he makes himself a slave to everyone. Notice how this is the reverse of what we've been doing for so long. Many Christians will say to others, you enslave yourselves to us. Then you can join our church and be a part of our fellowship. Paul says it the other way around. We enslave ourselves to others in order that we might win them to Christ. He wants to get inside their heads and their hearts. His goal is simply to build a bridge to Jesus Christ for them. He wants to know what makes them tick, where they find their security and significance. He knows that the truth of Jesus Christ is at the heart of their needs. Whatever their questions, whatever their needs, the answers and the provisions are ultimately found in Jesus Christ. Our goal then is to understand the hearts and the desires of the culture and to communicate the message of Christ to them. It's about them. It's not about us. So, this is our challenge. Build a bridge. We are called to engage the culture with the heart and the mind of Jesus Christ. When we look around the world, our hearts should break. As a result, we should have a passion to think deeply and broadly so that we might be able to communicate clearly the hope that's found in the person and the message of Jesus Christ.